Merab is slowly becoming my favorite fighter, and how could he not become one of your favorite fighters after dominating Sean O'Malley last night, winning a round on the feet against O'Malley last night, and again, like always, breaking his opponents and just making it look unfair. That is what Merab does, getting a submission win over the improved Sean O'Malley. People were thinking O'Malley was going to go out there and snipe Merab. Oh, he's focused now. Dude, Merab straight up just built different. I love having a champion in the UFC in a stacked division like the bantamweight division where you have snipers like O'Malley, savants like Jan, beakers and test tubes like Sandhagen. I like having a champion that's simply just built different, dude. And that is Merab. Nobody can fuck with this guy. I think he might be the best fighter on earth. And with that performance over O'Malley, with a submission win, more dominant than last time, striking with him on the feet, breaking him earlier, improving, he's top 5 all time. Okay? And he passed a lot of people. A lot of people he just passed on the GOAT list. As I said in my video a few weeks ago, I was making a video on what every single champion needs to do to either become the GOAT of their division or for the people like Merab, who are already the GOAT of their division, what they would need to do to become the GOAT of the sport. And I said Merab needs 3 more wins. He needs to beat O'Malley. He needs to then beat Sandhagen. And then he needs to win the 145-pound title. Okay? If he gets those 3 wins, he is the best fighter of all time. He just got one of them. He is 2 wins away, in my opinion. Nobody can fuck with this guy's resume right now. Outside of Volk, okay, Makhachev, those are the only 2 people currently competing today. And I'm going to break down every single fight on this card. Kayla Harrison, new champion. Joe Pyfer, the tool bag, it's becoming an issue. It's becoming an issue. We were talking about the tool bag when it came to the salt mines and how Pyfer always lacked a couple of the tools and he would get in trouble at the salt mines. But now it's showing up again in his fights. And it's not good, man. We're going to talk about Patchy, stiff as a board mix. This guy's a journeyman. I'm a world champ. These fucking Bellator fighters, the reason why, and listen, I like Patchy mix, okay? But let's be fucking honest. This guy was talking a lot of shit. And these Bellator fighters, they're drinking their Kool-Aid like no one else. Because you have a group of wannabe hardcore fans that constantly say shit like, oh, that's the real baddest man on the planet. You know, they'll flood this guy's comment section or they'll flood a Full Violence post when Patchy Mix wins. I don't even know if Full Violence even posts Patchy Mix when he wins in Bellator. And people will rush to the comments to be the first one there to let everyone know, let every MMA fan in the world know that they know that, wait, Patchy's the baddest bantamweight on the planet. And guess what? Because he's not in the UFC, we'll never have to put the rubber to the road to actually prove that. But you can just throw it out there. Oh, I'm so hardcore. Fucking Patchy Mix, baddest fighter on the planet. Yeah, fucking right. Stiff as a board. Going in there. Imagine what Piotr Jan would have done to this guy. So much for the baddest grappler bantamweight history. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll talk about that. UFC holding it down as always, baby. UFC #1. And listen. I'm a fan of the guy. He was looking like Tony Ferguson this week. I like the trash talk, but I can't lie. It is kind of satisfying not to see a man lose, but to see a Bellator hyped up, I'm not going to call him a prospect, but a hyped up Bellator champion just fail, and all of the wannabe hardcore fans have to just answer to that, okay? That's what's satisfying. All of these Bellator fans, these hardcore fans that are going to have to fucking deal with the fact that the UFC owns every promotion and actually know it isn't the case that other fighters and other promotions could be top 5 in the UFC. That's never the fucking case. And Aaron Pico's next. All right, Aaron Pico's about to get destroyed by Evloev. So, listen, let's just get into this. Merab versus O'Malley. Let's talk about this, man. First off, this guy is just so likable, all right? He just is. I know that there are people that would prefer Sean O'Malley as champ right now, dude, O'Malley, I understand that as a champion he gives us highlights, but I can't be the only one that just loves this outcome way more. And this is not me trying to be different. I like Merab's fight style. He goes out there and breaks the best fighters in the world that are more skilled than him. He is the only person on the planet that's capable of doing that. Khabib Nurmagomedov is the last fighter that, similar to Merab, would just go out there and simply break people. But at least Khabib was this next level savant when it came to his grappling and jiu-jitsu. Merab's grappling is good. It's great. And it was clear that his coach, who basically just got Merab to get a submission on command just by simply saying, hey, we got to go for a finish this time. Merab gets it done, right? He's capable of getting those submissions. Maybe throughout his whole career, he's just having too much fun out there to even try. But either way, dude, like, this guy is not Khabib on the ground. He isn't the same level of dominant grappler, even though he's a 135er. He's got that lighter man skill. And we cannot say anymore that Merab can't hold people down. Like, he's getting better. But the big point that I want to make is that this guy is not the best anywhere, okay? Except maybe you're going to have... I can't even say that anymore because he just submitted O'Malley and his wrestling is so fucking good. You know what? We can't say it anymore. We can't say that anymore. Merab's wrestling is the best in the division, all right? And his grappling is the best in the division, okay? Like, we just have to say that. I know Umar's pretty good, but Merab's just proven it more at this point. All right, Merab submitted O'Malley. Umar couldn't submit Sandhagen. I know we're doing MMA math, but I don't know. Like, you look at O'Malley and you're just like, this guy's so much more slick. What could Merab possibly do to engage with him on the feet? He's just going to have to shoot takedowns. Yet we see Merab cracking this guy, pushing him back. O'Malley's wide-eyed, right? You know what I mean? And you see Jan, who's got this really good pocket boxing, and Merab's just in his face, disrespecting him the whole fight. That's cool to watch. He's just a fucking alien. He's like the fucking lion in the Madagascar 2 that just wakes up when there's a challenge. It's just, unlike that guy, Merab's Mr. Smiley Pants, and he's always having a good time, and he's super humble. I thought it was pretty funny when he got on the mic when Joe Rogan was interviewing him, and Merab just yapped for like 10 minutes straight. And you could see O'Malley in the back. Merab was sort of mogging O'Malley unintentionally, but you could see Merab just, this Chad with the belt, just fucking yapping and yapping and yapping. Everyone's like, oh, wholesome Merab, how wholesome is he? And then O'Malley's just in the back, like, letting the loss soak in. And he's got to sit through the yap session for 10 minutes. And he's just rolling his eyes, thinking, man, can I just get out of here? Merab's still yapping, dude. I thought that was pretty funny, but listen, this guy's just a beast. And you know what? Let's talk about the fight. O'Malley looked pretty good. He looked fast in the first round, and my heart was about to come out of my chest. I was getting really nervous. I was getting scared because, again, I'm not afraid to say that I'm rooting for Merab, straight up. I like O'Malley as a fighter. I like Merab as champ. That's the difference. I like this guy as the fucking champ. All right? So I didn't want to see my boy get knocked out. However, O'Malley was doing pretty well. I thought it was pretty close. And then Merab gets the takedown, and I feel relieved. I'm like, oh, here we go. And you got to think about what's going on in O'Malley's head, right? I mean, he's had an improved camp. He stopped gooning for this. He stopped smoking for this. He stopped social media for this. And he's just been taking down Merab with 1:45 to go. And you know he's getting flashbacks to the first fight. Second round. I don't even think Merab got a single takedown. Maybe he got one at the very end of the second round. But they're just striking. And again, this is the beginning of the fight. This is O'Malley's chance to snipe Merab. And because Merab has already mixed in the takedown and has already put O'Malley on the back foot for the majority of the first round, O'Malley's already huffing and puffing. He's already tired. And he's not in a position to comfortably pick his shots. He's just being forced to react. And that's what Merab does so well. He just brings people into this constant state of reacting to him. And you see O'Malley just getting pushed back, and he lands some good shots. He tagged Merab a couple of times, but that power had significantly decreased since the first round. And Merab starts cracking him on the feet. Merab starts landing hard leg kicks. He starts landing big punches. And you see the momentum start to change. It's sort of an even round. Maybe it could have gone either way, but it honestly felt like, again, Merab was just getting started. And you could see his corner tell him going into the third, okay, O'Malley's power, it's declined. It's time to really fucking push the pace. No more respect for this guy. Go after him. And we saw just that. Merab, O'Malley starts stuffing a couple takedowns. You think for a second the tide's going to start to change. Then Merab gets deep on a double leg, and he picks O'Malley up and fucking drops him on the ground and just mauls him for the rest of the round. And there you see O'Malley break. There you see O'Malley understand that this guy is not going to let up. This is going to continue to happen. I can't keep up with this, and I can't knock someone out that's putting this type of pace on me without getting fucking lucky. And he just gets smoked for the rest of the round, and there's just nothing you can do, and this is the thing. He gets the submission. He pulls it off. He gets in the same position that he got into in the last fight, in the same round. I think it was the third round, maybe it was the second. But in the last fight, Merab gets O'Malley up against the fence. He starts cranking on his neck, and then he kisses him to mess with him. And then he gets up with 5 seconds left of the round, and O'Malley, bursts up to his feet like an angry kid, and he tries to punch Merab in the back of the head, and Merab kind of acts like he doesn't know why O'Malley's so upset, right? To kind of mess with him a little bit, but now we actually see Merab in the same position. And because his coach has been telling him during this training camp and the build-up to this fight, we got to stop messing around. I know you're having fun out there, but my goodness, let's just go for a finish. Let's focus up a little bit more. Let's lock in. Merab in that same position, goes for the submission and gets it. Chokes Sean O'Malley out. I think there was 18 seconds left in the round. I mean, I knew it was getting dominant. And if he didn't get the submission, he still probably would have won because, that round, O'Malley was just getting cooked the entire time. When he pulls it off, that's the first time anyone has ever finished Sean O'Malley in a fight. O'Malley, we don't really talk about this. He's tough to put away. It's not like he's necessarily been on the ground with the best submission artists, right? But he fought Petr Yan, who put a beating on him, who landed some ground and pound shots, who landed some big shots upstairs. O'Malley proved to have a pretty decent chin, and he fought Aljo, but Aljo just didn't really get a takedown in that fight. Aljo shot 2 takedowns. That was a horrible game plan that Aljo had, and he's just not Merab. Aljo just doesn't have the same pressure and pace as Merab. And another thing that Merab has that these other guys don't have is this tenacity. He never, ever gets discouraged. No matter how many takedowns this guy can fail, he never gets discouraged, not once. You see him smiling, almost giving O'Malley real credit in real time when he gets his takedown stuffed. Like he's proud of O'Malley, and he's genuinely happy to have a tougher task ahead of him now that he has to go for another one. And again, a lot of fighters, they get their takedown stuffed, a few in the beginning of the fight, and then they're like, oh man, well, I'm going to expend a lot of energy, and this ain't going to work, so I'm just going to stand up and strike. And they end up losing because their whole game plan to begin with was to wrestle, and they were reliant on that. Merab is confident in his striking now. It's getting even better. Of course, he has the threat of the takedown that helps him, but also pair that with the fucking mentality where he doesn't care if he gets it stuffed. And the cardio. You're cooked. Nobody can compete with this guy. Nobody can compete with him. He's the first person that ever finished Sean O'Malley. He 50-45'd Petr fucking Yan. And that is still his best win. He just submitted O'Malley. Oh yeah, he's beat him twice. Umar Nurmagomedov. I hate that Dana White said the Umar rematch sounds really interesting right now. Fuck the rematches. Let's get a fresh matchup with him and Sandhagen, please. Then you can do the Umar fight again. Umar needs to get another win. This guy barely deserved a title shot to begin with. And you can't pull the same bullshit excuse like you could with O'Malley O'Malley's a bigger name and a big star and a big draw. Okay, Umar is not a pay-per-view draw in the U.S. At least O'Malley's from the U.S. But speaking of the U.S., what was the walkout, man? Anyone else just not liking the walkout for O'Malley? I know, Trump's in the building and you're in New Jersey, but it honestly felt so try-hard. Like, it didn't feel like O'Malley. It didn't feel at all like O'Malley. I was like, man, is Strickland about the walkout? Or I don't know, is Pyfer walking out again? Like, that's not O'Malley. It really just did feel like O'Malley was trying to get good guy points. He was trying to get a pat on the shoulder. He was trying to turn the crowd and have everyone, crying in the stands saying, that's America's sweetheart. That's America's sweetheart. But it just, you can't fucking fake it. And also, you want to be patriotic. That's like the cheesiest song to choose out of all the ones you could have gone with. That's the one that they always play at the fucking Republican convention and whatnot. Like, that song has been overused a billion times, and then Merab just comes out to Merab music. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. You should have came out the Superstar. At least that song, it connects with you a bit. At least that makes sense with you. It just didn't feel right. O'Malley came into fight week. He didn't dye his hair, and Merab was right. Merab's out here humbling people. Merab said at the press conference, I humble people. And look at what's good with O'Malley. And listen, I'm not saying that O'Malley didn't show up a better version of himself, but I think a lot of the changes that O'Malley was doing, he said that he was too attached to Sugar, but maybe Sugar was the dangerous motherfucker in the cage, because even with a torn labrum, this guy put up a better fight in the first fight. And maybe that speaks to the fact that Merab has gotten even better. Okay? And also Merab's just super confident going into the rematch because he won the first fight. But, I mean, I will say O'Malley did look faster early on in this fight, and he looked better in the first round than he did any round in the last fight, even though he lost the first round in this. And even though his body looked a little bit more jacked this time, I mean, O'Malley definitely did look to be in much better shape. I don't know. I guess that just speaks to how good Merab is. I really don't think it was O'Malley worse this time. I think this was a better version of O'Malley, and Merab still just made it look easier, which just goes to show how crazy that is, that he's 34, he's still getting better. But yeah, we saw all these changes. I mean, I know this is not like we're looking into the hair now, that O'Malley's hair and him not dyeing it, but I don't know. I'm not saying that O'Malley, when he's tapping into Sugar, is the reason why he always wins, but I mean, even though he lost last time. But I guess what I'm saying is that maybe that alter ego he has in the cage, that delusion, that extra bit of delusion that he's Sugar and no one can touch him, he went in there with a bit of a humble look and a humble feel this time, and that's not what you need when you're fighting a guy like Merab. You need to be as delusional as possible against Merab. I feel like O'Malley was too based in reality last night. He should have been floating around in Peaches and Creamville going into the cage last night. He should have been doing the Sugar Show. Instead, it was, this music where he was just desperate to get everyone in the crowd to be waving the hands for O'Malley, waving the hands for O'Malley. And it's like, man, dude, come out the Superstar. Superstar, I will say, has fucking aura, that song. It works for O'Malley. And then, after that, it's like, here's Merab. Merab is incapable of not being himself, okay? He just comes out to his fucking Merab music, his Georgian music. Man, this is such a good fight. I'm just so happy that this was the result. Listen, I understand some of you guys have been saying that I'm rooting for the downfall of the sport, okay? I've seen that. I did a poll. Who are you rooting for, Merab versus O'Malley? And people were saying, wow, it's 60% Merab. There was like 25,000 votes on that poll, which goes to show a lot of people do agree with me. And I don't think they're just rooting for Merab necessarily just because they don't like O'Malley. I think people really do like Merab now. It was tough to like him after the Aldo fight, which was boring as hell. It was tough to like him after the Jan fight because everyone just loves Petr Yan. It's one of those things you can't explain, but you can explain it because Jan has such a cool fight style. And he's like, a ice cold Siberian. He's got like a comic book not intro, but origin story. But either way, dude, we all loved Jan so much that Merab beating Jan by 50-45 and giving him a black eye really pissed us off. But since then, this dude has given us nothing but entertaining performances. And the Henry Cejudo one where he's picking him up and tossing him across the octagon, The O'Malley fight was not that amazing, the first one. But out of the last 4 fights, he had a war with Umar Nurmagomedov, which was an incredible fight. I mean, this guy getting takedowns. I don't think I've ever heard a crowd cheering as loud for a takedown as they were in January when Merab was taking down Umar in the 4th and 5th round of their fight. Okay? And then you look at his fight with O'Malley last night. That was entertaining. Even the grappling exchanges. Even the grappling. Because this is the thing. I know Merab doesn't have the best ground and pound. But when he's getting control over people, you know that they are slowly breaking. And it's early on in the fight. And if they're getting broken in the beginning of the fight, what is it going to look like in the 4th and 5th round? How dominant are the takedowns going to be? Is Merab going to be able to launch them out of the cage with takedowns by the time we're in the 4th? Because if you look at the takedown he got in the 3rd, he damn near did it against O'Malley. So that's what's entertaining about this style, is that it's this train. You can't stop it. All right, Merab is just this machine, dude. He's a machine, man. All right, people are going to say I'm glazing, but yeah, dude. Like, I understand that O'Malley would be entertaining as a champ, but it would feel forced. It would feel like, yep, the UFC forced him back into a title shot, and they would have done it 100 times until he gets his lucky KO. That's how it would have felt. That's really how it would have felt. And I know that O'Malley's got a wicked fight style, but I just think Merab's more likable anyway. Like, I want to root for him. And also, when people really start climbing the ranks on the GOAT list, I like seeing people achieve greatness, no matter who it is. If O'Malley had knocked out Merab in their first fight, I would kind of be rooting for him to knock out Umar, right? And then if he knocks out Umar, now I'm like, okay, he's got a lot of momentum. I kind of want to see O'Malley become the GOAT. So now that Merab's the guy that's putting together this resume, I'm just rooting for him. And people are going to say, oh, so you're only rooting for the winners, bro? Yeah. Yes. I am rooting for the fucking winners of the sport. Now, it doesn't mean that I won't be disappointed when my favorite fighters lose. But let's be honest, all of our favorite fighters are people that win. Even if you're going to say you're a Dustin Poirier fan, a guy that's taken a couple losses, like, you're a Poirier fan because he's dished out ass whoopings that have been entertaining, and you've really enjoyed seeing him win a lot. None of our favorite fighters are people that go 0-3 in the UFC. No, not me, man. I'm a hardcore fan, man. My favorite fighter is 2-5 in the UFC, and now he's in the PFL. He's ranked number 10, man. That's my favorite fighter because I'm a real fan. Yeah, fucking right. Okay? We do root for winners, and I like seeing Merab just continue to break the best fighters in the world in the most skilled division. That's the thing. He's fighting people that are like more impressive when it comes to the eye test. All of his opponents look better when it comes to the eye test, but he's just too much for all of these guys. So, yeah. He's 2 away. This guy's top 5 all time. He's already the best lighter weight class fighter ever when it comes to bantamweight and flyweight. There's absolutely zero debate. I honestly saw some comments this past week about Dominic Cruz, and when I think MMA Junkie, they posted something on their Instagram, and it was talking about how Merab is now pretty much considered to be the GOAT by most people, and there were comments saying Dominic Cruz doesn't exist. Like, yeah, Dominic Cruz, give me one of his good wins. Give me one of Dominic Cruz's amazing wins, please. All right, what are you going to say? TJ Dillashaw, okay, whatever. Give me another. Have fun trying to give me 3 fucking great Dominic Cruz wins. Or I can give you 2 Sean O'Malley wins. Sean O'Malley is a solid win. I know he doesn't have the best resume, but O'Malley is dangerous, and say what you want about his wrestling. He's still pretty fucking skilled with his takedown defense. And Sean O'Malley, if he were in Cruz's era, Dominic Cruz would never be champion with Sean O'Malley in his era. Never. I'm sorry. That would never be the case. O'Malley would be too fast, too slick. Dominic Cruz is fucking, whatever I call it, the freaking slip, dip, and rip style. All right, him going to war with the Laguna Goon Beach's lifeguard, Uriah Faber, who is a part-time fighter and a full-time skateboarder and a full-time fucking lifeguard at the Laguna Goon Beach. I'm sorry, but O'Malley is smoking everyone in that generation. All right? Merab has wins over O'Malley. 2. The second one's even better than the first. He's got a win over Umar Nurmagomedov, who was his nightmare matchup on paper. He defeated his nightmare matchup. He's got a win over Jose Aldo before Jose Aldo took multiple years off and came back to have 3 more UFC fights. All right. And then he's got a win over Cejudo. Then he's got a win over Moraes and a 50-45 against Petr Yan. DJ doesn't have a resume like that. He just doesn't. And you're going to say, well, DJ, 10 title defenses. You only named 6 wins. Yeah, I named Merab's 6 best wins. O'Malley twice, Umar Nurmagomedov, Petr Yan, Henry Cejudo, and Aldo. 4 of those fighters have been champions. O'Malley, Yan, Cejudo, Aldo. All right, Aldo's a top 10 fighter of all time. Yan is the second best bantamweight of all time. Dominic Cruz ain't even better than Yan all time. Yan has a better resume. I'm sorry, DJ hasn't beaten anyone as good as Merab. Henry Cejudo, Merab beat him too. And guess what? Oh, Henry Cejudo was a little older? All right, well, then Henry Cejudo came back and had a fucking gritty scrap with Song Yadong. He's still good. Cejudo is a good fighter today. All right? And yeah, he wasn't in his prime, but you know what? Cejudo's 1-on-1 with DJ. Merab has a better resume than any bantamweight, than any flyweight ever. Okay? There's only a few fighters that are higher on the all-time list than him. And I'm tired of the bantamweights not getting the credit they deserve, because on the GOAT list, it's always GSP and Jones and Silva and Aldo. But and DJ? DJ's the one freaking flyweight that he's always in there, even though I'm sorry, but he's just not top 5 anymore. The bantamweights are always kind of screwed over, but this is one of the best divisions ever, and Merab happens to be in the generation where it's the most stacked that it's ever been. The bantamweight division has never been this stacked, ever. It was always kind of top-heavy back in the day. Now you have so many incredible fighters, man. Patchy Mix is lurking around this division. So, yeah, I'd say Volk, Makhachev, they're the only ones with slightly better resumes, and Anderson Silva, it's not even in the top 10 anymore. I'm sorry, but yeah, this is just an amazing win for Merab. I'm happy to see the guy win. I'm happy to see the bantamweight GOAT continue to defend his belt, because there were some people saying with 1 title defense, he's the bantamweight GOAT. Yeah, get over it and let that sink in. Yeah, he's the fucking bantamweight GOAT with 1 title defense, and guess what? Now he's got 2. All right, and he's about to get 3 if they rebook the Sandhagen fight. I hope they don't book the Umar fight, because then Umar is going to beat him, and I want Merab to beat Umar again. So let's get on to the next one. Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. I was starting to get depressed while watching this fight, just because it was almost round 3, and it looked like this was going to go 5, and I was getting really sleepy, and I was just thinking, oh, even all the trash talk can't make up for the fact that this is going to be a boring fight. But then Kayla Harrison gets it done by submission. I don't want to be hearing anything along the lines of, what do you mean that wasn't an entertaining fight? It was so entertaining. No, it was boring up until the finish. And I was just so happy. People were going to say, wait, so this wasn't boring until the finish, but Merab? Yeah, Merab and O'Malley landing actual real punches on each other with real fucking consequences, with real fucking things at stake, is more entertaining than this shit. O'Malley and Merab actually had good stand-up exchanges, and I'm sorry, that fight means 1,000 times more, so every exchange that is even identical to this fight is going to be 1,000 times more entertaining, so don't even mess with me on that. This shit sucked until the finish. I was freaking happy as a clam when Kayla Harrison got the submission, so that at least got us closer to the next fight. However, I thought the best part of that night, first off, Kayla Harrison looked to be like twice the size of Juliana Pena, so it wasn't even fair to begin with. She said that it was a miracle that she got that extra pound off and she can't do it herself. And like, I understand that. I mean, I don't understand how she's making this weight, but I was happy to see her and Amanda Nunes face off. I think Amanda Nunes coming back is great. I have doubts as to whether or not she'll be the same fighter, because she's taken a lot of time off, and I don't know if she's even been training. And I know she still has the aura of the best women's fighter ever, but if she's not been training, she's just going to get worse. And I know that Amanda Nunes is like levels above all of these other girls, and Prime Nunes would destroy Kayla Harrison and whatnot. But, Prime Nunes fucking lost to Juliana Pena. So it just goes to show that if Amanda Nunes is not switched on, even she could lose to one of these women. And she has. So if she's been switched off for a few years, I don't know if she's just going to easily beat Kayla Harrison. Although I will be rooting for Nunes. But, I don't know. I'll be rooting for whatever the fuck is more entertaining. Okay, so that's actually a Nunes KO. Let's get on to Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. You know what? The first round went exactly how I thought it was going to go. Joe Pyfer knocked down Kelvin Gastelum twice and 10-8'd him. I mean, that was a 10-8 if there ever was one. He rocked him with a head kick, dropped him before that, dropped him after the head kick. That's 2 flush knockdowns. It was weird because on the second knockdown, they said that is the first time Kelvin Gastelum has ever been knocked down. Did you not watch the Adesanya fight? Adesanya knocked this guy down 3 times in the final round of their fight. Maybe 4 times. I think Adesanya actually broke the record for the most knockdowns in middleweight history. So I don't know what the hell John Anik was pulling that freaking statistic out of, but that's bullshit. Sorry, Kelvin Gastelum has been dropped before. Now, Joe Pyfer did it twice, and he did it early. But the same issue presented itself, and the commentators were talking about it. Joe Pyfer, his tool bag is just not that deep on the feet. And you know what? He did go for a takedown later on in the fight, and actually Kelvin got right back up to his feet, so we can't say he didn't try to shoot a takedown. But I think that Joe Pyfer, even though you could say a bit of it is his tool bag, and he may not have the widest variety of little crafty nooks and crannies that he can. Well, you get what I'm saying. He doesn't have the fucking little things he can pull out with his striking, right? But yeah, Joe Pyfer, I think he just really wants to get a KO. Like, Pyfer's just addicted to knocking people out. I think that's what it is. Because you see, I understand you using your arm to gauge distance, and you're putting out your hand and you're trying to make sure you have your range. But Pyfer had his left arm extended for the entire second round. Like, his left arm was just fully extended for the entire second round. And it was just clear as day that he was just addicted to knocking motherfuckers out. You know what I mean? Like, Pyfer was just fucking begging Kelvin Gastelum to get knocked out with his right hand. And he was telling the world, I want to knock him out with this right hand. And you can't be that predictable, Joe. I'm sorry, Joe. All right? Like, you just can't be that predictable. You know what I mean? In the mines, like, there are methods to breaking down the walls. You go pickaxe mid, and then you go pickaxe high, and you go pickaxe low. You got to fucking mix it up. You know what I mean? That's exactly what you got to do on the feet, too. You can't just freaking hope and pray for one right hand. It's just, so, like, I don't know. I thought this is, but you know what? I do think it's a conscious thing. I don't think this is just because Pyfer is just simply not good. I think he's capable of being a lot better. First off, we got to just say the first round's a fucking 10-7. It's basically a 10-8, okay? It's a 10-8, almost a 10-7. He dropped Kelvin Gastelum badly twice, all right? I mean, that's easily a 10-8. So even if Kelvin had won the last 2 rounds, he would have only gotten himself a draw. Either way, whenever Pyfer would throw combinations, he would land. It's just this guy doesn't throw combos. He's just fucking dying to land one big punch. He's not just addicted to KOing people. He's addicted to knocking people out with one angry punch. That's what it is. And listen, it can be entertaining in the first round, but it got boring in the second and third, and he was aware of that. But again, I think that Joe could have done a lot better if he had just extended on his punches a little bit. Not extended, like not overthrown. I mean, like extended on his combinations. And if he had gone to the grappling a little bit earlier and just thrown some more kicks, right? Just add an extra punch on to one of those right hands. Just add a left hook behind it, or, land the right hand, step back, land a jab right after, land a leg kick, right? And then maybe go for a takedown and just mix it up. Try to get Kelvin down, but slow it down. I felt like even with a takedown, it was a little rushed because Pyfer's got great jiu-jitsu, and I think if he had just went in there with the mentality of, I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to just try to touch Kelvin Gastelum's chin. I'm not going to try to put a hole through it every time. I'm just going to try to touch his chin. And I'm going to try to land these leg kicks at range. I'm going to try to teep him to the body. And every now and then I'm going to mix in a takedown and try to establish control, go for a submission. I think it's just a simple mindset change. And that's it. But I think the first round definitely played into his approach in the last 2 rounds, because the first round he knocked down Kelvin twice and he was probably thinking to himself, man, I'm going to get this KO. It's only a matter of time. This guy's already really rocked in front of me. I'm bound to get it. And then Kelvin warmed up into the fight. Kelvin, when he's, in a flow state, he can be tricky to hit because he's short and his head movement gets a little bit better as the fight goes on. But yeah, I think that he has to be less reliant on knocking people out. Okay, I mean, obviously he pulled off the win, so he wasn't totally reliant on it. But the second and third round, there wasn't a whole lot going on. And that was because Pyfer was just waiting to get his right hand KO, as opposed to just trying to land and trying to win moments. Okay, so yeah, I think that can be something that he can easily improve upon if he goes in there next time, because he's always going to be dangerous. You just can't beg for the KO to happen. It'll eventually present itself to you. And if you look at one of the best KOs he has in his career, I think it was his UFC debut at the Apex. He fought this old guy, forget his name, but he landed a wicked combination on him. That was what knocked him out. It's not always going to be just one big bludgeoning punch. So yeah, well, let's get on to the next one. Patchy Mix versus Mario Bautista. I feel right. I feel like I was fucking right on this situation, okay? I looked at Patchy Mix's fights, and I saw a slow, stiff, flat-footed fighter. The same guy that we saw last night. That's what I saw in the build-up to this. Now, I knew he was good at submitting people, but I looked at Mario Bautista, who's a workhorse, who's got an insane gas tank, who has good wrestling, good enough, who just came off of a performance where everyone railed on him because he was holding Aldo up against the cage. I know that's not fun, and I know he wasn't taking down Aldo, but he was forcing Aldo up against the cage with pure will. And that, to me, shows that this is not a guy that's going to get pushed around and easily taken down himself, because we know he has good wrestling to begin with. He's got high output. He schooled Ricky Simone. He was hanging in there with Aldo. And you know what? Everyone was hating on Bautista. I understand his last performance was bad, but for the majority of his career, he's been entertaining. He's been a high output, entertaining fighter for the majority of his career. And I think the fan base owes this guy a bit of an apology, okay? Because again, last night, he had a really good fight, and the fans were booing. I don't know why they were booing. I think it was because they didn't want Mario Bautista to do well, and they saw him winning the fight. They saw him landing good strikes, and they just wouldn't root for him, and they were booing him, no matter how good that fight was going to get, because that was a sick fight. Even though Patchy Mix looked pretty bad, and he definitely fell short of the expectations, and he even fell short of my expectations. I thought we were going to at least see some interesting grappling exchanges, but Patchy couldn't even get there. But either way, I feel like Patchy Mix having a shitty performance at least gave us a really solid fight, because even in the end of the fight where Mario was still winning, Patchy was doing better. He was landing some decent shots. He was spinning Mario's head back every now and then, digging to the body. It was a good old-fashioned bantamweight scrap. I really enjoyed watching this fight. It was entertaining, but again, I was confident in Mario Bautista. People really overrate these fighters from other promotions, and they really overrate their competition. Like, I know that this guy beat the guy that beat Petr Yan. Oh, how bad is Petr Yan really, or whatever? Like, dude, we can't act like fighters don't massively improve. Okay, Merab Dvalishvili has lost a couple of times back in the day. He's lost to Ricky Simone. Is Ricky Simone a better fighter than Merab today? Fuck no. All right? Is Magomedov a better fighter than Petr Yan today? Absolutely not. Petr Yan would fucking send that dude's head into orbit. He would absolutely school that guy. Oh, here come the hardcore fans. No. You just don't understand how good Magomedov is, brother. Fuck that bullshit. Okay? The problem is, it's like, You sharpen a sword. In Bellator, you're fighting people that are not that great. And so you sort of adapt to the competition that's around you, and you sort of morph into that level, right? Whereas when you're in the UFC, you've got to battle it out with the best in the world, and you adapt to that level. I know that these guys all train together. I get that. But listen, man, Patchy Mix was out here saying I'm a 3-time world champ. This guy's a journeyman. Like, 3-time world champ against who? Against who? Rufion Stotts? Oh, well, Stotts. Oh, no. You don't understand how good Stotts is. Stotts had that fight with Sabatello, and there was trash talk, and Stotts won, and he was a champ. So, therefore, Rufion Stotts is this monster. Dude, the point that I was making before this fight happened is that if Mario Bautista was in Bellator, he would be a fucking champ too. Or he would be competing for belts. Like, Mario Bautista would be fighting Patchy Mix for a trilogy because they would be basically the best in Bellator. People at the Mario Bautista level are beating everyone Patchy Mix has ever beat. They're beating, I forget, O'Gallagher. They're beating James O'Gallagher, right? 100% Mario Bautista is schooling O'Gallagher and finishing him too. Everyone's talking about Patchy Mix with this nasty finishing game. And I understand it. He has a better submission game than Mario Bautista. Fair enough. But Mario Bautista's finishing O'Gallagher. Batista's going to beat whatever, Magomedov. He's going to beat him too. 100% he's going to beat him too. And I'm not saying he's 50 levels above, but he's good enough to at least beat those guys and be the best in Bellator. Mario Bautista is at that level. And I think that people were letting their anger towards Mario get in the way of that. They were letting that cloud their judgment a little bit. Because even though I'm not saying that it was ridiculous to pick Patchy Mix to get a submission or something like that, but I think that, people were letting their anger towards Bautista cloud their judgment in regards to understanding how good he is. He is a very good fighter. He has proven that throughout his last couple of fights. Okay? Before the Aldo fight, he looked like a guy that would beat Patchy Mix just based on the cardio, his wrestling pace, and all of that. And again, I talked about Patchy Mix looking stiff as a board in the film that I was watching before this fight. This guy was like in Bellator, flat-footed, walking forward. Yeah, he landed a good knee on Rufion Stotts, but just looked slow as fuck. Like, just did not look dynamic. And you have people like Mario Bautista that are switching stances, that are going body head, moving around, right? You've got Jan who's in there, and Jan's, just picture Jan's walkout music, and he lands the uppercut, and he lands the flying knee, spinning back kick, right? You've got O'Malley who's faking you out. He's faking you out. He's throwing that right hand. He switches stances. He's throwing that right hand, that left hand, right? And then you've got Patchy Mix, who's like, walking forward like a zombie, right? And he's freaking grilling you. He's doing the Tony Ferguson look. He's like, Patchy Mix was like Nate Diaz last night. He was like Nate Diaz walking forward, man, trying to grill Mario Bautista into a submission just with a freaking grilly look. Dude, this is such a good fight, man. Like, it was a good fight. Say what you want about Patchy not looking that good. I'm happy that it was a scrap. Like, this shit was entertaining as fuck. And, Patchy's tough. He's tough. But he's a good fighter. Patchy Mix, despite the fact that he lost, like, he was still in there in the second and third doing okay. The third round was pretty competitive. Like, it was actually kind of a close round. The first two were not that close. Mario Bautista was just spinning this guy's head back. But it just goes to show Bellator level is just so much lower than the UFC. The top 10 in the UFC are all basically champ level in Bellator, every single one. I mean, if you put Patchy Mix in there with Ayman Zahabi, I think Ayman Zahabi has a chance to get that done. And that's not that crazy. Ayman Zahabi, maybe he could get submitted, right? I don't think he's got the same cardio as Mario Bautista. He doesn't have the same speed. I think that'd be more competitive. That's actually a fight I want to see next. Mix versus Zahabi. That would be an amazing fight. I would love to see that. I'd like to see Mario Bautista versus Umar Nurmagomedov. That's what I want to see, okay? But either way, yeah, I think Ayman Zahabi is like the level that Patchy Mix is like on par with. And I think if Ayman Zahabi goes to Bellator, you're looking at a guy that's getting a belt wrapped around his waist, okay? He just looked slow. He didn't look dynamic. And it's so easy for people to sit there and say, no, you don't understand. I know that Bellator guys usually aren't as good as the UFC guys, but Mix is actually good. Like, this guy's actually legit. Like, they were saying that about Eblin. And then Eblin had a freaking war with Kasangane, or whatever his name is. He had a war with him. Eblin, Mix, these guys get too much hype. And I'm not sitting here just... It's easy for me to look down on the skill in Bellator because it's also the case that they can't prove it in the UFC, so it's easy to talk from this side of the street, right? But still, it's just evident. When you watch Bellator, like Stotts versus Sabatello, when you think you're about to have a high-level fight, they just have a 50 minutes or 25-minute stink fest. Bellator fights just look lower level. Like, I've watched some Pitbull fights, and it's literally just, ole, 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 ole. And the fight will be in Dublin, and that will psych people out because, ole, ole, ole is like a Dublin, it's like an Irish UK thing, and there's something sophisticated about that sound in an MMA fight, right? And people are picking their shots, and you see Pitbull, patient chess Pitbull. He's playing chess out there. That's sophisticated, and therefore, he's a good fighter. And Bellator has high-level fighters, right? Because they're having chess matches. And in reality, it's just a shit fight. These guys are just fucking not good. And they're just like throwing two strikes around. And Patchy Mix, I'm sorry, but you look at his competition. Oh, Gallagher, fucking, Magomedov, like, these guys they're not the UFC caliber. It's just something as simple as the eye test. That's all it is. It's just the eye test. No Bellator fighter has ever looked as impressive as Petr Yan. When Petr Yan fought Sandhagen, Aldo, when he fought Figueiredo, no Bellator fighter has ever looked that high level. I'm sorry. It's just never been the case. Okay? And Mario Bautista's not on Jan's level. But when I see Mario Bautista fight, I'm seeing someone that's well-rounded, fast, high output. They have good footwork. These Bellator guys, they're just plotty. I would have really have liked to see mix in the takedowns, okay? I would have liked to see him mix in some more takedowns. He barely even went for any of them. I think he maybe went for one. But I know he was getting his ass beat, and maybe he started coping mid-fight, and he was, like, pissed off that he was getting his ass beat in his UFC debut. And instead of changing up the game plan, he fed into his ego and was like, fuck this. I can't let this guy beat my ass. Like, I need to be the tough guy that breaks this kid. I need to be the vet that fucking breaks this guy and gets to go on the mic afterward and say, listen, I didn't even need my grappling. I didn't even mix in my grappling, and I still finished him on the feet. Like, I feel like that's what Patchy Mix was going for in the second and third. Okay? Because he was in that position where it's like, I'm getting dominated on the feet, but at least there's a cop-out for me where I can just think to myself, well, at least I didn't even try my A game. Okay, I lost on the feet. I'm not known for being good on the feet. At least, no one can say I'm still not the better grappler. Because if I go for the grappling and that gets shut down too, then it's going to look really bad. You know what I mean? Maybe that was what was happening, but... Listen, I'm a fan of Patchy Mix. Like, I want this guy to do well now. He got his UFC debut comeuppance, right? I mean, that's what we gotta listen. I'm a UFC guy, and that's not because, oh wow, you're a UFC guy. Why don't you just like combat sports? Because the UFC is the best promotion and has the best fighters in the fucking world, and I like the promotion that has the best entertaining fighters. Okay, so you got to prove yourself to these hardcore fans, man. But listen. Patchy Mix took his L. He took his customary L entering the UFC against a UFC caliber guy. And now I will be happy to see Patchy Mix fucking get his hand raised a million times over and become the GOAT. Okay, but either way, dude, like, come on, man. I was right. He's too flat-footed. If you put him in there, if this guy was fighting Petr Yan last night, there'd be 0% chance he would have gotten a submission over Yan. That would have looked way worse. If this guy was in there with O'Malley, man, I don't know if O'Malley's takedown defense would be as good as Mario, but maybe Patchy wouldn't be as confident in standing with O'Malley. Maybe he would have dove at the legs a few times. Maybe that, I just wanted to see Patchy Mix actually mix in the fucking takedowns, please. All right. But we know the striking ain't that good. Either way, I think that if he tried, I think Mario would have stuffed them because Mario is a good grappler. I'm happy that I got this pick right. This is a satisfying pick. A lot of people were going with Mix. A lot of people. And again, they wanted to seem hardcore. And I understand it's not always that, but listen, you just have to understand that the level in Bellator is not as good. You have to look at the eye test. Okay? Usman or Magomedov, Hughes. I mean, I know that's a different division. These guys are good. They're good. But they're not top 5 in the UFC. No one in the top 2 in Bellator is top 5 in the UFC. No champ in Bellator is top 5 in the UFC. I don't think there's one. Except for maybe Nemkov. I will say, I believe Nemkov is the one heavier champ in Bellator, PFL, whatever, that I think could be top 5. Do I think he's champ? No. But I do think that because if you look at the light heavyweight division is so shallow. I think Nemkov, I actually think he's very good. So I think Nemkov's the one exception. You have to go to the heavier weight classes, man. Or sometimes it's like the opposite spectrum. You got to go to DJ. Whereas DJ, when he was competing in 1FC, DJ could be, champion in the UFC. I mean, he had literally proven it, right? So, I mean, that's obvious. But right now, it's only Nemkov. So, yeah, let's get on to the next one. Vicente Luque, Kevin Holland. Yeah, Vicente Luque, I picked him. Listen, I understand that on paper I should be picking Kevin Holland sometimes, but every time I pick him, he loses. Every time I pick against him, he wins. Wait, did he lose or did he win his last fight? I think he won his last fight against, what is his name? Gunnar. I think Gunnar lost to Kevin, although I'm not 100% sure. Either way, it's just hard for me to pick Kevin Holland. And yeah, every once in a blue moon, Kevin Holland will put together a streak like this. And then you go back to picking him, and then he loses, and then he loses again, and it feels like Kevin Holland doesn't care anymore. It's just impossible to pick Kevin Holland fights. But yeah, on paper, Kevin Holland should have won this fight, but I can't pick Kevin Holland, not even on paper anymore. Okay? I'm just not going to pick him. I'm sorry. I just can't trust him to win fights, even if he's putting together a 5-fight win streak. It's just tough. Okay? Unless he fights someone like Gunnar where I know he's going to win. But yeah, I picked Luque. I thought Luque would be able to take down Kevin Holland. Luque's pretty strong. He's pretty big, and I know Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland is the one exception to lighter man skill, by the way. He is the one exception. Kevin Holland does better in the lighter weight classes than he does in the heavier weight classes, and I know his frame has a lot to do with that. He has a very long frame. He's got a long reach. He's got, obviously he's very tall. Obviously that helps at welterweight where it's a little bit more, he can loom over people in the striking a little bit more, and it's even harder to get to him. And I guess, he's bigger in the weight class, so it's hard to take him down sometimes. But he's a bit of an anomaly. You would expect the skill level to be different at welterweight and for him to get destroyed. And fair enough, at welterweight, let's be honest, he is fighting lower levels of competition at welterweight. He's fighting slow, plotty Vicente Luque. And I picked Luque, but I picked Luque on grappling skill, and Luque couldn't get the takedown. And he gets submitted. What was that? An anaconda that he submitted him with? Yeah, Kevin Holland's always got himself a chance to pull off a submission. I thought Luque was going to take him down, hold him down. He couldn't do it. Luque always slow as hell on the feet. And Kevin Holland wins. Yeah, again, he is the one exception to lighter man skill. He does better at welterweight. But then again, the welterweight fights that he's having are against Gunnar, Luque, like these sort of older, slower guys. He's not fighting the who's who great fighters at welterweight. Because then I honestly think he'd be more competitive with the 85ers in the top 10 than the welterweights in the top 10. Joshua Van. Every now and then we have a prospect that we believed in from their debut, and we were like the first one to hop on board the hype train. And that is the case with Joshua Van. Everyone likes being early on a hype train. Everyone likes to be the guy that was the first one that said, I told you so. Or can be the guy to say, I told you so from day one. And that's me. I believe that I was the first out of anyone, at least on MMA YouTube, to really hype up Joshua Van. I think people started hopping on board second or third fight, but I'm sorry. I'm just cool because I was on board after his debut. All right, against Coconut Head. I forget what that guy's name is. Yeah, I remember Joshua Van debut against, the veteran who doesn't have a great record, the guy who's got the coconut haircut. And he just looked amazing. Like, he was hanging in there. His takedown defense looked great. His output looked great. And I was saying, this guy is like a Max Holloway in the flyweight division. And he's getting so much better. This is not his first TKO, but it's his most impressive performance to date. Bruno Silva, listen, I will say this for the 1,000,000th time. I don't know how Bruno Silva is ranked. Yet he's been in 2 big fights now with Joshua Van and Manel Kape back-to-back. I don't know how this guy got himself into this division. I don't know when this guy's career started, but he just spawned into reality recently, it seems. Either way, he's like the epitome of a tough out, I guess. But honestly, this was a better performance than Manel Kape had. Manel Kape, after his beatdown of Bruno Silva, where he was emoting and he was really showboating, kind of reminded us of Anderson Silva in that fight. He needed a bunch of eye pokes in that fight. Remember, I'm not saying he needed the eye pokes. I will take that back. He didn't need the eye pokes, but he landed a bunch of eye pokes, which kind of helped him. Joshua Van knocked down Bruno Silva, and those were harsh knockdowns early, and then brutally KO'd him in the 3rd round. Not a single eye poke on his side. And he's not, 31, 32 like Manel Kape? I don't know how old Manel Kape is. Joshua Van's 22, 23. He's only been around for a bit. I mean, he's been around for a couple of years now, but this guy is like 5-6 years away from hitting his prime, and he's having a better performance against Bruno Silva than Manel Kape. And that honestly makes me change the way I'm thinking about Manel Kape versus Royval, because Royval looked really good against Moreno. He looked great against Tatsudo Taira. I think we may be overrating Kape. Kape, he's a guy that gets a lot of style points for the way that he showboats and how fast he is and whatnot, but he has had some pretty mid fights, and he's not the most consistent. I don't know if I'm going to pick him to beat Royval now. And Royval's just got crazy output. But we got to talk about Joshua Van. He's calling out Moreno, and you know what? Before this fight, I would say I don't want Joshua Van anywhere near Moreno for another couple of years. I can't say that now. I think Joshua Van, I think he might lose to Moreno, but he is freaking ready to hang in there. Like, he will give Moreno a tough fight now. And the one thing that's different is this guy, he's more patient. He has the ability to be a volume striker. He has the ability to set records when it comes to, output. But I saw a more reserved, patient Joshua Van that wasn't, it wasn't like Pyfer, where Pyfer's just like desperate and addicted to knocking someone out, so he needs to only get one big punch. But Joshua Van was really picking his shots, and it looked like he was focusing on being a little bit more dangerous, on making people pay a little bit more. He's always been very accurate. I mean, if you can be a guy that has a lot of good output and you can, tally up the numbers, you have the accuracy already. He's sort of taking that accuracy and just putting it in a more patient game plan, picking his shots, and you see he's lethal now. He is lethal. He still has the takedown defense. He's still undersized. But again, my worries for Joshua Van were that he was small, he was undersized, and that he didn't have the power to get respect. So all the output, that's great, but people would not respect him at all. And they'd be willing to take a 5-punch flurry to land one of their own. But now Joshua Van is showing us that he can crack, that he can hurt people real bad. And I think this is going to be massive for him. And I think this is a really telling performance from him. And it shows me that actually we might have some champion potential here, because his takedown defense is already great. His cardio is already great. His output is already great. He has time to put on more mass in this division. He's still, 5-6 years away from hitting his prime, and he's getting a better performance over Bruno Silva than Manel Kape just had. So, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking that this guy could be a champ now that he can crack and now that he's hurting people on the feet. Joshua Van's going to be a real problem. I actually would not mind seeing him get a big fight, and imagine seeing this guy become a champ at 24. If Joshua Van can become a champ at 24, 25, I don't see him losing for quite some time, unless there's someone else that's really impressive. But because then he still won't even be in his prime. But let's get on to the next one. Murzakanov versus Brendan Ribeiro. I picked him. I picked Murzakanov to get it done. Round 1 KO. He's a professional. That's really what it is. Brendan Ribeiro, he looks scary. If you had never watched the UFC and this was your first fight that you were introduced to, I guarantee everyone would think that Brendan Ribeiro was going to kick Azamat Murzakanov's ass. Murzakanov looks like a lamb being led to the slaughter against Brendan Ribeiro. Ribeiro looks like a fucking Alex Pereira type of fighter. Okay, he's looking extremely scary. He's much taller. He's got a much longer reach. But Azamat Murzakanov, he's just a professional, man. And he's a density maxer. That's the thing. You look at him, and you can't quite comprehend how he's able to move so fast at 36 with his physique. But again, it's something that cannot translate to the screen. People don't understand, because I've met Azamat Murzakanov because he's a part of the density maxing community. And he's one of the original density maxers, by the way. So he's been on the density maxing forums for a long time. It's different when you're there in person and you see Azamat Murzakanov literally floating. This guy, I promise you guys, if you actually zoom in on Azamat Murzakanov during the fight and you zoom in on his feet are always at least a centimeter off the ground. He is floating out there. How is it possible when he looks that out of shape and fat? It's because there's a certain level of density that Azamat has. It's like when Rogan is describing a chimp. Chimps have these strongly corded balls of muscle. There's this level of density that if you have it and you're heavy, you're like so fucking heavy that you're not even touching the ground. You're defying gravity, and you have this next level explosive ability and speed, and he has that. And he's just a professional, man. He goes out there, he just looks like a guy that this is what he does for work. And yeah, he just floats into you and fucking stings you with a fucking gnarly overhand. I'm a little bit worried because, Azamat seemed very adamant on getting himself a main event. And we need to rush this guy's career. Like, it is the opposite of the Joshua Van situation. We need to rush his career because he's 36. Alex Pereira's 37? Like, we need Azamat to get a fucking big fight now because it's going to be too late. This guy literally could be championship material. He could be the guy to beat Magomed Ankalaev. Like, this could be the guy. And I don't know who to root for because they're both friends of mine. But either way, we need to rush him. We need to get him into a main event with Carlos Ulberg. Like, can we just have Azamat Murzakanov fight Carlos Ulberg so we can see an Azamat KO? And we can rid ourselves of the Ulberg situation. The Ulberg situation is just that Ulberg is a little bit boring. I know, what do you mean the Jaguar's boring, bro? He knocks people out with the left hook. Yeah, every once in a blue moon he does. But most of the time, it's little pit-pat decisions. I want Azamat at the top of this division, floating around, stinging people like bees with never-before-seen light heavyweight footwork and never-before-seen physique mixed in with the fucking skill and power. He's an anomaly, okay? So let's see Azamat in a main event as soon as fucking possible. He took no damage. Let's not have this guy on the shelf. He is, in my opinion, someone that is good enough to be fighting for a belt. Dude, this guy might KO Yuri. Like, he's that good. I know Brendan Ribeiro is absolutely terrible compared to Yuri, and he's chinny. I get that. I'm not going to go as far as to say Azamat beats Yuri. Yuri probably beats everyone that's not Alex Pereira and Magomed, in my opinion. But either way, I think Azamat could be competitive with everyone. That's the point. He could be competitive with anyone. And, let's give the kid a shot, right? Let's give the kid a shot. So, yeah, let's see what he can do. Let's get on to the next one. Sergey Spivak versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. I thought Waldo Cortez Acosta won. I picked Sergey Spivak to win because I felt like Waldo's the level of competition and the size where Sergey Spivak can just sort of bully him to the ground. I don't know why. Waldo's listed at 6'4". I don't know. He actually is 6'4". He looked to be around a similar height as Sergey Spivak, but you look at Waldo and you think he's like 6'2" or something like that. I thought Sergey would be a lot bigger than him, and I thought he would get the takedown. Polar Bear Sergey Spivak could not take down Waldo Cortez Acosta. Goes to show, Waldo Cortez, he might not be knocking people out. He might not be winning with style points, but he is athletic and he is actually setting himself apart. I've said he's the new Marcos Rogerio de Lima. He's the new odd man out sort of, guy that's sort of under the radar, but that you can't deny is not one of the fat, sloppy heavyweights that's just terrible. Like, he's actually a good heavyweight. He's not going to be a champ. I think Gon beats him. I think the best heavyweights in the world beat him. I think Blades beat him, right? But I think he's at that level where he's around that Marcin Tybura level where he's good enough to be in the top 10 and he's a respectable heavyweight. He won this fight. People were saying this was a robbery. No. I don't think Sergey Spivak won. I think Waldo clearly won on volume. He clearly won 2 out of the 3 rounds. I gave him the second. I gave him the third. And he's athletic. This guy used to be a professional baseball player. So he's got natural athleticism. He's got natural speed. He didn't make the major leagues, but he was in the minor leagues. But either way, clearly he's a good athlete. He's pretty fast. He doesn't have that much pop. If you're not knocking out Sergey Spivak and you're having a 15-minute war with him, then that just goes to show that you ain't got the most pop. And he's not on Gon's level or Aspinall's level. But this is his ceiling. Waldo Cortez Acosta has proved us all wrong, and he has officially made it to the top 10. So I feel kind of bad for Spivak. I feel like this was the kind of, you hate to see Spivak get dominated multiple fights in a row. And you're like, all right, well, at least he's at this level where he should hold this one down, right? But he loses again. So, yeah, tough one for him. And my new favorite fighter, Andreas Gustafsson. My new favorite fighter, dude. This guy, we've talked about Marauders. We know Haider Emil. We know Yuri Prohaska. We know Shavkat Rakhmonov. Andreas Gustafsson is 2025's best Marauder of all time, which makes no sense. But he's the best Marauder of the year with one performance. I don't need to see another. I know Haider Emil is booked to fight. I know Emil was booked to fight earlier this year. He's going to fight multiple times. Gustafsson might fight again too. This guy is the epitome of a Marauder, and he literally told us that he is the least technical fighter in the UFC, and he takes great pride in that. This guy just broke Chaos Williams. Like, people were booing, and early on, I get it, it was a little bit boring, and in the first round, I was like, shit, here we go. Classic Andreas Gustafsson. Because you watch Andreas Gustafsson in his fights outside of the UFC, and he's really just a clinch him up fighter. He clinches people up, and he knees people up against the cage, and he lands a couple elbows every now and then, but you're not actually watching the whole fight. Like, you're skimming through the fight. You're going round 1, 3 minutes of round 1. Okay, watch that for 10 seconds. Let's go to round 2. Watch that for 1 second. Let's see if they're in a different position in round 5. Watch that for 1 second. Okay, that's what he did throughout the fight, right? But now he's in the UFC, and you're like, okay, I'm going to watch his entire fight because it's right in front of me now. People were booing. This guy is just imposing his will. There's a difference between Merab and Aldo, Mario Bautista and Aldo, where they really are in those moments justifiably angering people. I mean, people are angry and they're justifiably, angry. So I understand it. But like, you can't get mad at this. This is different. This is actually clinching, but imposing your will. Like, you're not just stalling. There's a difference between stalling and then imposing your will in the clinch where you're wearing on someone. You know how DC always says, but he's wearing on him. He's getting big on him. He's wearing on him. He's making him carry his weight. That's what Gustafsson's doing, and he's mixing in the elbows. Okay? Apparently, Gustafsson has a extensive background in Greco-Roman, which is a lot of upper body wrestling. It's like the same wrestling that Movsar Evloev is really good at. And you could see he's just in there in the clinch, making it hell for Chaos Williams, just making him carry his weight, making him wrestle overhooks and underhooks and overhooks and underhooks. And you really have to be a grizzled vet to sort of deal with that. I mean, I've been in the room with guys like Magomed. I've been in the room with some of Bellator's most underrated wrestlers, with guys that competed in the NCAA. And it's actually usually the Greco-Roman guys that you don't really know that give you the toughest rounds in the clinch, that give you the toughest rounds in sparring in MMA wrestling. It'll be the Greco-Roman guys. Now, we've seen Mark Madsen, who was a Greco-Roman Olympian wrestler, but it didn't translate as well because Mark Madsen didn't have the same sort of chin, same sort of savage-like mentality that Gustafsson has. Gustafsson is like a mix between Mark Madsen with a fucking granite chin and mentality of Benoit Saint Denis. And Benoit is a Marauder too. So it's like he has Benoit Saint Denis' striking style in the clinch, where he's really trying to hammer you with big elbows and all that. And he got, decent takedowns, but he's got the same craftiness in the clinch of a wrestler that can tire you out and take the wind out of your sails as a Mark Madsen, right? I'm a Gustafsson fan. This guy is a fucking beast. He's an absolute Marauder. They said on commentary he has never been knocked out, and that shows when he's stalking down a guy like Chaos Williams who hits like a truck. Gustafsson's just willing to fucking get in his face. And again, this was entertaining. I thought after the first round, I was like, okay, I kind of see what he's doing. He's not just stalling. Like, he's really trying to break this guy. He's getting right in his face. He's throwing big punches to close the distance. He's really scrapping and trying to fucking, finish this guy. And he eventually he didn't get a finish. It was a decision. But either way, I thought it was entertaining. And I'm a Gustafsson fan, okay? I'm a big Gustafsson fan. Let's get on to the next one. Wang Kong versus Ariane de Silva. Listen, I know there were some leg kicks. I was actually cooking a buffalo chicken sandwich. I was cooking a cookbook meal while this was on. And I was, listen, I had seen the KO from Jusang Yo and Jurka Saragi. I picked Jusang Yo to knock out Saragi. I picked that because Jekka, he's lost to Anchal Jubilee, and he's lost to Weston Wilson. So I was like, okay, of course Jusang Yo is going to win. Awesome KO, wicked KO from Jusang Yo, epic KO. All right? But I was cooking a cookbook meal. I was making the buffalo chicken wraps from the Real Food Cookbook while watching Ariane de Silva, Wang Kong. I probably caught about a 30-second glimpse of the entire fight just because I knew it was going to go to decision. And this is the thing, man. I know there were leg kick moments where she dropped Ariane Silva, so I can't sit here and say this was a really boring fight, but come on, man. We go from Markel Medeiros versus Mark Choinsky was not that great, but it was pretty dominant. You got to give it to Markel Medeiros. Like, he dropped him 50 times. Listen, I mean, not that great. It was a pretty interesting fight, okay? Great showcase of leg kicks from Markel Medeiros. He won that fight. He's looking pretty good. Still can't finish people. Still doesn't have a lot of pop. I think he's pretty good, but I don't know how far he's going to get given that he's not able to finish Mark Choinsky when he has Mark Choinsky on one leg the entire fight. It was a good performance. Quillen Sal killed Yanal Ashmuz. This was epic. This was an epic fight. This was a really good hardcore fans fight. We see Quillen Sal killed. He gets a takedown shot on him. We think Quillen Sal killed's going to go in there. He's going to have the long rangy style. He's going to put it on Yanal Ashmuz and school him on the feet. Yanal Ashmuz, he's going to go in there and wrestle. Yanal Ashmuz goes in there and wrestles, and Quillen Sal killed is like, fuck that. I'll quote Joe Rogan, this ain't no picnic, right? Joe Rogan loved this fight. There were so many scrambles, but Quillen Sal killed starts dominating Yanal Ashmuz in the wrestling, picks him up, slams him, fucking dominates him in the wrestling. And then Yanal Ashmuz is like the big power puncher. Round 3, he has Quillen Sal killed on skates a few times. He's really going there for a big bomb. And this was like a really good fight. You were on the edge of your seat while watching this, right? You were thinking maybe Quillen Sal killed might get KO'd, or early on you were thinking, okay, Quillen Sal killed's going to fucking dominate Yanal Ashmuz. This was entertaining. The first one was entertaining. Jekka Sargi versus Jusang Yo. Flatline KO. Left hook. Face plants Jekka Sargi. He gets on the mic. I'm going to bring a belt to Korea. I'm going to be the Korean champion. I'm going to do what my mentor Korean Zombie was not able to accomplish. I'm going to bring him a fucking belt for my country. And then we get Ariane de Silva versus Wang Kong. And listen, I'm going to be honest. I was making a cookbook meal, but my point is these fights are just way more boring. I'm sorry, but like there's always that realization midway through the first round that fuck, like this is going to go to a decision. And no amount of dropping someone with leg kicks is going to make that much better. So you can instantly tell sometimes. You can instantly tell. Now, fair enough, during the co-main event, I thought that was going to go to a decision after the first round, right? I was happy when it ended, but sometimes you can just tell, okay, this is going to go 15 minutes. It's time to make a Real Food Cookbook meal. So, yeah, this was a great card. I really enjoyed it. Really good card, fun card overall. We've got a lot of interesting matchups we can make. Patchy Mix is in the mix, right? He lost, whatever, but he's still a UFC fighter, and we're going to get a lot of Patchy Mix stiff as a board fights. And maybe he'll actually get some submissions. And Mario Bautista, the fans are liking him again, all right? And Joe Pyfer, let's see if he can go in there next time and let his hands go a little bit more. And Merab, I want to see how far Merab can take this. I really think it would be a shame if they do Merab versus Umar when we have Sandhagen. And I understand that Umar's a tougher fight, but he just had his opportunity. We can't just do, okay, we're just going to do whatever's the toughest fight for the champion every time, because then you're just going to do Makhachev versus Volk 1,000 times with Volk with a full training camp. Or you're going to do, oh, well, Poirier gave him a tough fight. Okay, well, instead of Makhachev versus Renato, we're going to call Poirier and we're going to do Poirier instead. Like, we got to just do a fresh matchup. And Sandhagen's coming off of a win, a dominant win against a guy that's pretty good in Figueiredo. He's never fought for the undisputed belt. Let's just see that fight. And Umar, I don't want to see another guy get an immediate fucking rematch after losing. Okay? Upon coming off of a fucking loss, like O'Malley just did. Like, I'm not saying that, oh, we just saw a guy get his immediate rematch and lose, so that means Umar's going to lose. Umar could win the rematch, but let's make him earn his fucking shot, okay? Let's make him earn it. He barely earned it the first time. Let's see him get a win. And as soon as he gets himself a win, then he can earn it, okay? But listen, he said he wasn't ready to fight Petr Yan because he's injured or whatever. Oh, he's conveniently injured when it comes to taking a fight that isn't a title fight. As soon as Merab wins, now we're going to hear about Umar being ready to go. Tweeting at Merab, hey, brother, were you ready to go? No, we're not doing that bullshit. Merab said he wants vacation. Let's let Merab take some time off. It's Merab versus Sandhagen. Book it for the end of the year. Umar Nurmagomedov needs to fight someone. And that someone could be O'Malley, or it could be Mario Bautista. But it better be someone. Okay? So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.